Round 3. I had to miss some of it. I caught a little bit of it there at the end, but it looked
Well, so round 3, we actually got to watch 2 different games. We watched a Chane mirror that went down to the wire, literally 2-1, and was won on the back of arcane damage that was unblockable. And then we saw a really interesting matchup. Sarah, the only female Road to Nationals winner, actually picked up the win with Chane against Prism, and it was a very, very cool matchup.
Yeah, absolutely. It sounded like it was really good, and I got to see a lot of the cool parts towards the end of it. The Chane matchup to the mirror. A lot of times when I see it, I see that like no one ever blocks, and it's just a race to kill the other player. Is that more or less than what happened?
That's generally what can happen. In that mirror, you really do have to go back and forth and decide when is your time to block, when are you going to use cards for resources in your hand, and when are you going to rely on what gets banished going forward so that those cards in your hand become resource cards only.
Right.
And so there are some very interesting, nuanced moments that can get really difficult in that matchup, and it's definitely a skill-intensive matchup. It does have its moments as well, where if you banish things that you just can't use, then you're a little bit sad. But there's nuance there that takes a while to see, I think.
Yeah, we've definitely seen that come in with some of the Chane players today. Jonathan Job in round 2, he bricked on a 4 banish once.
Yeah.
That was really big. So it looks like we're going to be ready to get into our matches here in a second. So we're going to take a look at some of the deck lists, and we've got a sweet one here from William Gomez, and I know this one was pulling at your heartstrings.
Oh, this just hits me right where I want it to. This is Hatchet Dorinthea. Hatchet Dorinthea is one of the coolest off-meta decks that maybe isn't so off-meta because it actually did pick up a Road to Nationals win. This is all about attacking with the hatchets of mind and body, which can get stronger if you can string them together. And of course, because you're attacking with those, you are needing to give them go again. So you take cards like Hit and Run, you play those down, you give the guaranteed go again. Even a card like Driving Blade gives a guaranteed buff and go again. And then you string together these powerful attacks with your hatchets, and you threaten a little bit of attack reaction stuff, being a warrior player. But you could look at this list and you go, well, there's not a lot of attack reactions. And that's really interesting because the threat is always there, and the opponent doesn't know if you're playing them or not. A very fun deck, and I'm really excited to see how that one plays out.
Yeah, you kind of hit it right there. That's the main difference is, we may see 1 or 2 attack reactions in this game where they're attacking with a card, but we're just going to see a lot of hatchets going back and forth. We're going to take a look at their opponent here, and that's Andres Perez, and you guessed it, Chane.
Indeed, it is Chane playing 2 Time Snap Potions. We saw Time Snap Potion get played last game in round 3. Didn't actually get used, didn't need to get used. We also see 3 Flock of the Feather Walkers, blue and red. No yellows flocks, but most of the time they run blue for pitching and red for triggering the effect, which is a very scary card. A late addition in the Road to Nationals season.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely saw that one picking up a lot of popularity here towards the end. So we're going to see if it's going to bring him in a victory here in this round, because we're going to go move down to the feature match area and get ready for round 4.
I'm looking forward to this one. As we transition over, I do want to point out there's 1 copy of Consuming Volition in the deck, a card that I actually did include one of in my deck, in my Chane deck for a while. 1 copy of Rip Through Reality, which is a card that is very good. Rip Through Reality being a very scary card if your opponent can't block arcane damage, because it's just going to have that natural go again. And there they are, the hatchets, and it's most likely cold foil hatchets too. Very
so they look
beautiful.
amazing, yeah.
Such a beautiful finishing for a card, the cold foil.
This is when you know Andres is a master of his craft. He's really committed himself to like learning the stack, getting the best copies of all of his cards. And stuff. So I'm really expecting to see some great flesh and blood here this round, and I'm excited to watch you call this match because you got so excited when you saw this deck list is what we were going to be featuring this round. So yeah, take it away. Tell us what's going to go on here.
I freaked out a little bit. I was really excited, and just note both of these players are 3-0. Both of these players have not dropped a single game, and this is Hatchet Dorinthea. And I think, is it William playing Hatchet Dorinthea up at the top, or the title up at the top, perhaps?
No, it does look like William's playing the Chane deck.
Oh, okay. Got it. It got it switched around a little bit. Nevertheless, I am really excited to see. Oh, and the Valiant Dynamo comes in for the block. Valiant Dynamo, I don't know if you know this card, is a legendary that was released in Monarch. If you attack twice with weapons on your turn, it loses the block counter that it gained in blocking.
Oh,
so
wow.
it can infinitely block As long as you attack twice. Oh, he's playing down an energy potion on turn 1.
Yeah,
So
this is a big setup turn for him, too. He got to get a Rune Chant as well as an Arsenal at the end of his turn.
exactly. A really interesting open to the game. And then we move over to the Dorinthea player, and it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out.
Now, kind of walk me through this, since I've only played against Dorinthea mostly, and it's mostly the one-weapon Dorinthea, not the two-hatchet version. What are the turns going to look like? What are the good ones looking like? What are we really wanting to see?
It looks like exactly this. You're going to play a non-attack action that somehow either threatens the go again or gives go again. And in this case, it's Driving Blade, giving go again and +3 because it's the red. And then you're spending, most of the time you do this, you pitch a blue card so that you can pay the cost of the action, and you can pay the cost to attack with Hatchet. So this Hatchet is a 2-attack weapon, but right now it's coming for 5. And it's 5 with go again, guaranteed.
Yeah, it looks like the Chane player is going to go ahead and commit 2 cards from their hand to get this first block off. And it looks like now the second Hatchet is going to be attacking as well.
And the second Hatchet, because it is following directly after the first Hatchet, gains its own buff. So this is attacking for 3. And so we have this kind of back and forth play where I'm going to attack with a Hatchet. I'm going to follow it up with the second Hatchet after I've given the first Hatchet go again. And you have to decide if in my hand I have an attack reaction as the last card. And in this case, it looks like we have an Arsenal and a pass.
All right, we're going to go back to the Chane player, and this is where they're going to start banishing stuff off the top of their deck. So like you say, like we've seen so far today, the first couple turns, maybe not all that impressive from the Chane deck. You know, a little bit of setting up, getting some stuff going, but once they start removing multiple cards from the top of their deck and getting a lot of free spells, that's where this deck really gets going.
Yes, and banishing a Seeds is absolutely fantastic. It's the card you want to see when you banish.
Yep, great card any turn of the game pretty much. You know, if you want to start moving damage now, you can do it this turn. If you want to save it, you know, you can take a couple damage from Blood Debt over a turn or two. This might be one of the matchups where you see them get a little more aggressive with it, right? You know, you're a little more you're more worried about your life total.
You could see him play it now. I could also see him make an argument, depending on what's in his hand, to keep this, wait, and just jam it down later. But it really depends on how much and what you expect the Hatchet Dorinthea player to do. And not many people play against Hatchet Dorinthea, and so you really do have to think a lot about what this deck wants to do and what it has the capacity to do.
All right, looks like we're coming in for attack here. Going to trigger the Rune Chant. This does go again from the Rune Shackle being made this turn.
Yeah, that's a blue Unhallowed Rite, so it traditionally attacks for 2. It's not triggering the blue Seeds of Agony, but it is obviously threatening that Rune Chant damage that was created prior. And he is grabbing the Seeds that he had played on the prior turn, I would guess, and then putting that to the bottom of the deck.
Yeah, you gotta absolutely love this. This is the best card I've found, and everyone always says this is the card you really want to put on the bottom of your deck as the game goes on. With this card, you want to make sure that you get Seeds towards the bottom. So, you know, we've seen this again time and time today, that these late turns when you get through your deck are going to be some of the bigger, more explosive turns that you see in this game.
That's right. There's not a better card to put on the bottom of your deck than Seeds. By the way, there's the Valiant Dynamo that only had 1 block. Used its 1 block on turn 1, and now it has another block because you attacked with 2 hatchets. It's so fun.
I will say, this card is really sweet. I remember reading it for the first time being like, sweet, this can just block every turn, pretty much. And this looks really cool. You know, I didn't expect to see this today out of Dorinthea, but I'm glad I'm getting to see this because I see why you're so excited.
And we have a Steel Blade Shunt come down to block the Nebula Blade. Steel Blade Shunt, the defense reaction, will deal 1 damage to the opponent because it's blocking a weapon attack. So it blocks out the attack, doesn't denies the Rune Chant creation, and then deals 1 damage back to them.
Yeah, just for
so
good measure,
fun.
it's like, oh yeah, by the way, you take 1.
So much
a little
fun.
added in, a little insult to injury there at the end.
And we have a Spoils of War turn. Spoils of War is one of the powerful cards in the warrior class, really. It gives +2, it gives a natural go again. It also allows for the creation of a token in the game called Coppers. And Coppers are tokens that you can pitch 4 resources for, destroy the copper, and draw a card. Which, when on the surface, doesn't seem very strong because you're paying 2 cards, basically, to do so. But sometimes you actually decide to do the effect and cycle cards out of your hand. It's a very interesting token.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I remember the first time I saw something about the copper tokens. I had to, go find what they were.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, this seems like something that might be, come up or whatever, but it's nice to have the option And I've seen there's a few cards that reference copper tokens that do stuff for that. You don't always see them in the Dorinthea deck. Sometimes I see 1 or 2 copies of it, but not too often.
Yeah, so the card is Cash In. It's the only card currently that allows any sort of benefit. And what you essentially do is you destroy copper tokens to draw cards naturally, basically paying the cost of the card with coppers instead of with anything else. It's very cool.
Big block here from the Chane player. Looks like the Arcanine Skullcap got involved. Get one of its -1 counters on it here. And
this is some fantastic lines thus far that we've seen from Hatchet Dorinthea. Allowing the 5-card constant hand is exactly what you want, because you do need a card to give go again each turn to one of those hatchets. And then the threat of possible attack reactions on the top is what makes people overblock. Now, when you're playing Chane, you may not care. You may just say, I'm just going to worry about pushing damage at you and, you know, try to bleed a little bit of that damage off by 1 block here or there.
All right, here we go, making another Rune Chant token. Gonna give his next attack action or blade attack go again as well. He's got a Plunder Run sitting here. It looks like there's a Seeds that he has an option with. A lot of things going on this turn.
Did that Plunder Run come from Arsenal?
I actually didn't catch it.
I missed it as well.
How many cards are in his hand? We can figure it out that way if we could see that, but...
Yes, it does look like he's got what looks like a full grip of 4 cards, so that would have come from Arsenal. If so, let's just assume that it did. This is threatening the next attack action card hit for a drawing the card effect, and that is a very powerful and threatening effect. That's why people run the blues.
Plus, if you get it from the Arsenal, you get a little bit of extra power as well to kind of make sure that it gets through and gets that on-hit effect as well to draw that card.
Can't be overstated. That card is so good. It also enables the Nebula Blade here to attack for 4. So even if you don't have a very good hand and you can't attack, it still turns on Nebula Blade.
Are you surprised the equipment's blocking yet again? Because I'm not.
No, not at all. That's its goal, and it actually works great in this matchup because it stops the 4.
Speaking of big attacks, here's a pretty big one here. Flock of the Featherwalkers, along with the hit and run. If this hits, this is going to do a lot of stuff. It looks like we're getting the Quicken token. We're going to draw a card, get some extra damage in. It's a big attack from the Chane player here.
Now, I don't think he's given Flock of the Featherwalkers go again, and usually you'd end your turn with a Flock so that you can set up that Quicken token and just go from there on the next turn using the Quicken token for your first go again. And Flock is one of those fantastic tools that people started adding in to their Road to Nationals Chane lists because it allows you to go wide earlier in the game.
Yeah, that was always the interesting thing for me. Every time I've played this deck or watched it, it always feels like the first couple turns sometimes leave something to be desired, and this gives you that extra option to kind of push damage, kind of help set up, because like it just seems like you want to amass as much stuff as possible into your big removing from the game turns and getting a bunch of attacks and stuff from there.
Yeah, all the banished turns, yeah. Do keep in mind, too, he actually did get the trigger off on the Plunder Run, so he got to choose what went into his arsenal. And now that arsenal is immediately being threatened with a Command and Conquer. Just the casual CNC for 6.
He talked about this. This deck doesn't run too many actual attack actions, but this is one of the ones it's good enough to find its way to this deck because it's just so good in all the matchups, and it's such a high-powered thing. And I've got to say this. This is one of the matchups where when this card attacks, is this just like impossible to block? Or block correctly?
The Command and Conquer? No, oftentimes when you see a CNC, you just do exactly that. You throw down 2-3 block cards and you just call it a day. You seal it off. And then he comes in with a Sigil of Solace, gaining 3 health. Very interesting. Sigil of Solace is a great card for your arsenal as well, so if he could have worked it into his arsenal, then he would have gotten even more value. But that's exactly how you play against a CNC. You just pick 2 cards from your hand and you say, here you go. And what a banish.
Yeah, it looks like a big whiff there. Look at Flock of the Featherwalkers, a Plunder Run, and one of the potions.
It was a, Time Snap potion.
It looks like no extra value for Andreas this turn.
Still the capacity.
Still seeds,
still the capacity to play Seeds, and also the capacity to play a Quicken token go again turn. Just depends on what the cards are in his hand now.
And what he's got left in his arsenal, you know, we did see him make a pretty big block to protect that arsenal, so you got to believe that card is going to be quite important for him.
It's a very good point. Oftentimes you can look at that CNC as just damage. If you don't care about the card that you arsenaled and you just wanted a 5-card hand on your next turn. But if you choose to block, that at the very least says there is some merit to having that card playable in the future turns.
Absolutely. So Dre's taking a while here with this turn, trying to figure out, what's my best play here. You gotta wonder if he could even really attack that profitably this turn with so few cards in his hand.
Oftentimes when you whiff that hard, you just go into the tank and you just start thinking, okay, wait, what?
So you're not really thinking about what you're supposed to do this turn. You're thinking about how unlucky you got with your banishes that turn.
And there's going to be people, I'm sure, that are like, oh, woe is you, Chane player who whiffed on their banishes.
I really don't feel for you. Yeah. I really don't feel bad for you. Yeah.
Makes a Soul Shackle, pitches, and just comes in the Nebula Blade for 1.
Yeah, this was ones, if you want to block it, you're going to have to overblock it. You're going to have to commit a full card to it. Otherwise, you're going to take that 1 damage. So it's like a little bit of give and take here. Do you block this or not?
Yes, you could also drop the Braid Forge Bracers into it if you really like your 5-card hand with your arsenal. Unfortunately, the Valiant Dynamo didn't lose its token, so this was your moment, Valiant Dynamo.
Yeah, I will say we gave up the opportunity to get that counter off of it because of the Command and Conquer the last turn. He gets attacked with both the hatchets, but you got to believe that's going to be back on the menu as soon as possible, unless there's another Command and Conquer hanging out to go after this arsenal yet again from the Chane player.
Creating a second Rune Chant token is very interesting. He made the Soul Shackle on the 1 attack Nebula Blade that was unblocked. That created the first Rune Chant. Then he pitched a card from his hand, which clearly wasn't very good. Oh, and there's the Enlightened Strike sinking a card. Is it just going for 7? It's probably just going for 7.
Yeah, we'll say he's going to try to just get in as much damage as possible here.
Could do the 5 and go again and then threaten with your hatchets. You do have a nice amount of cards. You do have to basically dedicate a card to Enlightened Strike because you have to sink one. Looks like he is going to just take the damage. Another Enlightened Strike.
Wow.
The hand was Enlightened Strike, sunk card, Enlightened Strike, sunk card. That was drawn. And this one, of course, is likely for 7.
Yeah, because we're not going to need to have go again here because we're not going to have anything else in the turn. So you're definitely pumping this one up to make sure she gets the maximum amount of damage. And this put the Chane player, it looks like, in a pretty awkward spot. It looks like he's trying to figure out his blocks here.
Chane is at 28. That is unheard of at this point in the game. 4 shackles in at 28 at this life discrepancy. Oh, interesting note. We could have brought this up earlier. Aether Ironweave instead of the Husk. The Husk would have been merited right there.
This would have been
huskable. Huskable.
Yeah, sure.
That was huskable in that moment. But oftentimes I have played, especially in Blitz, the Aether Ironweave is a lot of fun. Oh my gosh, and another huge whiff. With the Command and Conquer and what looked like a Shadow Puppetry as well.
Yeah, definitely Shadow Puppetry as well. And just getting a Howl from Beyond for your price, I think you paid a little bit too much for this.
Yeah.
It looks like our Chane player again is going to be a little bit on the back foot. This is a Plunder Run from hand.
That's correct. It's from hand, so it's not threatening +3, which is really sad because you really love that red Plunder Run from Arsenal.
Oh, absolutely. Get all that extra power involved, get the on-hit effect of drawing a card. Sadly, this one will only have the on-hit effect for any of the attacks going for the rest of the turn.
Going to make a Soul Shackle up to Soul Shackle number 5. Pitching a Yellow Seeds. And it's interesting, a lot of these seeds we've seen have been coming from hand because they've been drawn and not banished. And this is that danger of playing Chane and gambling with your life by selling your soul. Is that sometimes you just whiff.
It's the right city for it. We keep talking about this, but we'll have to find out. And yeah, we've seen it today. We've seen some Chane players do really, really well on their banishing, and we've seen some do a little badly. And when it does badly, this is where a lot of people like to make the argument. Baby Chane isn't the best deck because it's a little inconsistent sometimes in its banishes. And I like to point out this is where it makes it at least it keeps it from being unbeatable. I think at this point is when you can still have some of these whiffs, but.
Well, and credit to Hatchet Dorinthea for applying consistent and lasting pressure on each of these turns following these, and that coupled with missed banishes has made this very scary for Chane. At 23, at this point, you're free to just take this damage, keep your full grip of cards, and play out another threatening turn.
Yeah, I was say because Williams has such a high life total, he could kind of just shrug a lot of this.
And he plays a Sink Below to stop all 4 of those points of damage.
A nice little defensive reaction from the Dorinthea player here.
Keeps the card draw effect away as well.
Absolutely.
playing a howl into a command.
This is a
Oh, wow.
big play from the Chane player here. If this hits, it's going to take away the arsenal as well from William Gomez.
This is a 9-attack command and conquer. No defense reactions can be played on this. It will destroy the arsenal, and it will draw a card if it hits.
This is one of the better command and conquers I've seen today.
Yes, I would agree with that. This is exactly what Chane needs to claw back into the game.
Like Williams possibly thinking about some kind of block, so it looks like he's just going to gain a couple life here.
Gain 3 life and just accept the fate. Gain 3 life, take 9, lose the arsenal. Oh, and that's why. He had a defense reaction in his hand. Looks like he was forced to discard somewhere. I'm curious as to that effect. Nevertheless, a big, big swing, down to 28 from 37.
Yep,
and now we're looking even.
Yeah, I'll say we're looking even. The game's getting a little bit closer. We're back over the Dorinthea, Dorinthea side of the board. Looks like we're going to get back into the #1 plan here, and that's attacking with hatchets.
Now, unfortunately, in this scenario, this is where things can falter for Hatchet Dorinthea. If you don't have a go again effect, then you're stuck doing this. Hatchet of Mind or Hatchet of Body coming across for 2, and you have to have exactly glint the Quicksilver, which it looks like he does, so that he can then give the attack react go again. You're sad here because there was not a block with a card from hand, and there was only a block with Grasp of the Arknight, so you don't get the extra reprise effect, but you do at least push more damage with the hatchets. The second hatchet coming in for 3.
All right, looks like we're going to be banishing 5 cards here, and this one's not going to be anywhere near as big as a whiff from the prior ones. This looks like we're getting 4 extra Blood Debt cards here. So this game has turned on its head quite a bit here over the last couple turns here, Steven.
Yes.
We went from Dorinthea being solidly ahead and a lot of misses on the Chane side, too. The Chane side looks like they're running on all cylinders here. The Dorinthea player is actually kind of sputtering around.
Yes, but I just want to point out, we don't have the safety valve of the Husk in this game. So if at any point the Dorinthea player draws into just the absolute nuts of a hand, they can choose to take whatever's thrown at them, take 15 or something crazy, and know that if their crazy turn comes across, it's not just going to get husked.
Absolutely. We got a big turn lined up here for the Chane player. We have a blue Plunder run from Arsenal, followed up by Seeds of Agony.
Yeah. Using the 2 resources off of the energy potion instead of a card from hand, this is going to be a big turn. If you're dedicating your 2 energy potion resources, you are definitely looking to push a lot of damage. Oh,
speaking of pushing a lot of damage, here we go. This is going to be an Art of War. They're going to banish a card from their hand, most likely, draw 2 cards, and then some other effect here, probably, pumping up their power, whatever. But
and it's a Rift Bind.
So we're drawing 3 cards here this turn, actually.
Yes. Not only that, is he choosing go again? I would guess the go again is the choice here because you are showing that you want to play cards from your hand. You're showing that you want to play these attacks from banished, and you still have the ability to destroy Aether Ironweave for more resources. And this is a good one to play. The go again on the Art of War allows this to continue, this turn to continue. The Flock is going to make a Quicken, which will give go again to the next attack.
And trigger one of the seeds, it looks like, so another arcane damage coming across to the Dorinthea player.
And all of this is on the back of, by the way, if any of these attacks hit, I draw a card on Plunder Run.
So it looks like the arcane damage has happened, and we're possibly, are they still considering a block?
I would imagine so, and if that arcane damage does go through, then the Rip Through Reality is going to go again, so he is choosing to pitch to try and stop some of that arcane damage. He's going to have to dedicate another point of resource to stopping the second seeds when that one is triggered. Sink Below to stop the attack is interesting, because this is only attacking for 3, but he is choosing to use the Sink Below effect to put a card on the bottom and draw a card. As a Dorinthea player here, you're having a 2-card hand. This is a turn where you're probably just committing yourself to blocking out, not having a turn.
Yeah, I mean, like, the Chane player is definitely showing that I'm about to have my biggest, craziest turn of the game.
Yeah.
And while it feels bad, I think, like you said, you have to kind of commit to, well, I need to make sure I survive through these next couple turns.
That's exactly right.
And this is where Chane starts to put on so much pressure for you because, like we said, it looked like he was behind quite a bit, and then finally one really good banish turn with a good setup from Arsenal, and you're seeing the whole game turn itself around.
Yeah. And this is exactly the kind of turn that highlights why people play Flock of the Featherwalkers. Because now any attack that you play is going to have go again off the Quicken token. So you can play this Ghostly Visit and not have to Soul Shackle it. You can save your Shackle for something else.
Save your boots later as well.
Exactly.
If you need to do that stuff, yeah, you could. There may be a turn later where you're like trying to push like the last couple of points through, and you get to kind of keep that away. Like you said, this Flock of the Featherwalkers has really, really impressed me over the last few weeks when I've been playing this game, and obviously playing a ton of Chane.
And look, we have the Valiant Dynamo that
They're
can
back.
now block again. Blocking the 4 off of the Ghostly Visit with a card from hand and the block on Valiant Dynamo.
So we need to find a phrase for this, the Chane turn where they play 16 cards. The board is just actually cluttered up, or do we just call it the Chane turn?
It's the bomb turn. This
Okay.
is the bomb turn, right? Maybe somebody in the chat could come up with that. We could have.
They definitely could come up with a better name than we
I'm
do.
sure they could. Coming across now, choosing to play. Is that a Bounding Demagon? No, it's the Unhallowed Rites for 2. Cycling a Seeds, of course. No, cycling. Is that a Howl from Beyond? Interesting.
it
Choosing
might
the
have
Howl
been.
from Beyond.
Yeah. Couldn't really catch it there.
Means gas later. Finally, we have a block with the Brave Forge Bracers. Blocking 2 on the 2 makes a ton of sense. Still, by the way, not allowing any of these attacks to hit and forcing a card draw. But I don't know if you can hold on to that too much longer.
This one might be too much power. Let's count this one up. There's 1, 2, 3. I see 3 non-attack action spells attached to this Riftbind. Or is it 4 because of the other seeds? Yeah, it might be 4 because of the other seeds.
I think it's 4 because I think he's sunk his seeds already, perhaps, off of. No, he grabbed one from Graveyard earlier, so it's not the seeds that was played. Nevertheless, this is coming across for more than a single card can defend. And I think that's all he's down to, if I'm counting correctly. 1, 2, 3, and then 1 card in hand. So this will hit. Oh, wow, just kidding. It might not hit. That's a Steel Blade Shunt. Steel Blade Shunt is a defense reaction. That's red Steel Blade Shunt. Paying the resources to stop the attack completely. Very bold.
Now, I know you're not going to have any cards left. You're not going to be making any attacks here as the Dorinthea player, but you've got to almost feel like that turn was a win, right?
He took no damage that turn.
And how many cards did the Chane player commit to an attack there? Like 9?
Yeah, and now we see the Banish is coming, and we see the Enlightened Strike go, and wow, actually, that's a nice refill on the Banishes. Very dangerous.
There's an Eclipse in there too. We've already seen one of those happen today.
And we could see another one. Up to Soul Shackle number 6 as well, and because we're on Soul Shackle 6, the game is going to accelerate out of control at this point. 6, 7, 8, those are the end turns of the game.
And with Andres moving his banished pile away from the actual Chane, it almost makes me feel like maybe we're going to have another big turn here. He's like, well, hold on, I need more room. I'm running out of room to put all my cards into play.
Well, at this turn, I mean, this is how Chane plays. At this turn, there is no non-big turn. If you don't have a big turn on Soul Shackle 6, 7, 8, then you're probably losing the game. And so at this point, this is probably where the Banished Zone belongs so that you can just see what's going on because he can do so many crazy things.
We'll have to see how he wants to start his turn here.
Interesting to note as well, we've not seen William and the Dorinthea side of things actually use their Spring Tunic resource. They've had that since turn 3 of the game and just not needed to pop it off and use it. Technically, they could have, on their last turn, paid that resource, attacked with a Hatch to the Body for 2, and try to push a little bit of damage. Choosing instead to hold on to it, it is sometimes good to hold on to.
Yeah, maybe looking to get a huge turn later in the game when they need that extra resource to play the extra card. From the
Right, or
it.
threaten something like a attack reaction that costs 1, of which there are a multitude, like out for blood right there. So here we have the threat of the Unhallowed Rites for 4, stopping the Rune Chant damage by pitching the blue out for blood. I feel like this is always what you do in a chain matchup, is that as the game goes on, you eventually just have to decide, I can't really attack anymore. I have to try and survive. It's a very scary time because you feel like you have all the tempo, but eventually they just hit a good 1 or 2 turns like this, and they start stealing that tempo away.
It starts to feel really helpless. There's the card you mentioned.
Hey, there's Consuming Volition, the one of in the deck. If they have dealt Arcane or deal Arcane, then Consuming Volition has a pretty nasty on-hit effect where they're forced to discard a card, which can be really good, but kind of situational.
It was like a card that I've seen some lists have multiple of it, and this is kind of like maybe falling out of favor a little bit towards the end of the RTN run. So definitely a little surprising to see this. We haven't seen it in some of the other lists that we've already seen today, but I'm glad that we got to.
Yeah, Consuming Volition is always been sort of a fringe card. It's a really fun effect, though, and very threatening if you have dealt arcane damage. The flock here revealing a Plunder Run red, which you know is going to go into Arsenal, and creating a Quicken token, a very dangerous turn indeed. And Dorinthea is just taking the damage. At least took the damage for the Consuming. We'll see if they take it for Flock as well. Nope, going to block the Flock instead.
It's like you said, you can almost see it in the body language from William here and the way that he's playing his cards and stuff. It's like, I felt like I was in control of this game. I was doing really well, and then I started to fall behind on this one turn, but now there's been so much pressure put on me that I have to be super defensive every turn, and Andreas is just having his way. He's just playing multiple cards every turn, doing whatever he wants, and William, the Dorinthea player, is just sitting back and having to block everything. Like, how do you turn this around as the Dorinthea player here?
You start to have to outlast. You start to have to hope that they hit one of those bad turns. You decide, because he has the life lead, or at least had the life lead, and still does, much higher life lead, you decide on a turn where you say, I just have to take some of this and maybe mitigate a little bit, and then return the favor back and hope that they have to dedicate some of their cards and have an awkward turn. It's difficult, though, because in playing Aether Ironweave, you have access as Chane to resource generation even when you don't have cards in hand.
Okay, William, Arsenal is the last card, drew up to a full 4 here, so he's going to technically have a 5-card hand going to the next step, so he's going to kind of recoup that a little bit, but it does look like another decent banish here from Andreas. I see a Demigorgon.
Yeah, a couple of Demigons and a couple of Seeds, I think. Maybe one of those was a Howl from Beyond.
I think there was one Howl, yeah.
Either way, we knew the Plunder Run was coming. We knew it's giving +3. We know it's threatening an on-hit draw card. And things are very dangerous, especially the Quicken token being up.
Again, this Plunder Run was played from the Arsenal.
Yes.
It's going to get the buff plus the on-hit effect.
Playing down that bounding from Banished, so it's coming in for 7. You know, just a bounding for 7 for 0.
Yeah, with an on-hit effect, a go again, the works.
Pretty decent card, I'd say.
Yeah.
All things considered.
It's not even played from your hand, no big deal.
You do have to Soul Shackle it. Oh, wait, you don't have to Soul Shackle it. There was a Quicken token up.
Yeah, the Soul Shackle hasn't happened yet this turn. Got a lot more opportunity to do that because there's a lot more coming, I'm sure. It looks like we are going to be, like you said, committing into doing the blocking. The Dorinthea player plays another block here.
Blocking 3, I believe. Second swing blocks 3. Nope. And then going to pay the 1 resource. And this is exactly why you want it. You pay the resource to play Steelblade Shunt and avoid a little bit of that damage.
We're going to clean this up a little bit, move to the side. We're going to have a lot more stuff going on from the Chane player. We need a lot more room.
Coming in with a Shadow Puppetry into another Bounding Demagon for 5. And this is one of those where you just, at this point, I don't think you can fully block this for 5. You know, I don't think he made, no, he doesn't have to make the Soul Shackle because Shadow Puppetry gives the go again. So in this scenario, I don't think you can avoid the on-hit. I think you just have to take the on-hit and just go from there.
Yeah, I'm kind of at that point with you as well, like thinking about it from the player. How do you, like you could always play to not lose, but at some point you have to try to play to win. Right? Like, how do you win from this spot? At some point, you have to take a risk, right?
That's true. I think there's a definite validity to the idea of picking a time and picking a turn wherein you can just say, I'm going to take what you send, and I'm going to try to threaten you. Because if you can take cards from their hand, a Chane player's hand, then you can stop them from playing a massive Blood Debt turn. And things like in other classes, of course, that have the ability to stop Chane from playing out a big turn, like an Arclight, Sentinel, and Prism, those are the kind of moments that you look at and go, maybe that's the answer to stopping the tempo and just grabbing some time and space back from a Chane player.
Now, going back to this turn is still going on. Andreas got to draw the card off the Plunder run here. He's going to make a couple more resources. Looks like,
and here he can do the banish, whereas normally you can't really do the banish against Dorinthea because she doesn't play a ton of attacks. But here she did have, a couple of attacks in there, so you can attack, deal 2 Arcane at instant speed.
And we're still going. There's still cards that are in the banish pile that are good to go this turn if you would like. He's still got extra cards in his hand. We're just at the point where you see how much can Andres actually do this turn, because he can do pretty much all of it.
Still so many cards in hand, so many cards in banished. I think there's only, one card and an arsenal card left in Dorinthea's hands here.
Yeah, it
so
looks like 1 and 1, yeah.
If you want to stop the Arcane, you have to pitch your last card in hand and say, okay, whatever you'd like to send my way is coming directly at my face. He only ends up blocking 1 Arcane. You can only block 1 Arcane because the Null Rune is Arcane Barrier 1. You have to take 1 Arcane. Opens up a ton of other play lines too, like Rip Through Reality now has Go again. Consuming Volition, if he didn't have just 1 copy, it had more than 1 copy, would be absolutely nutty here, but
it would make you happier too, I know that.
Cards are already out of the hand, so at this point it actually had no effect.
I see another Seeds hanging out in the banish zone if he wants to go ahead and, it looks like he's going to go ahead and lead off with the Seeds here. Maybe something to do even more arcane damage this turn, even though there are still some resource points it looks like hanging around, so maybe the arcane is going to get blocked up.
And there's the Rip Through Reality that has Go again.
Yep, all right, so it looks like they're going to be blocking the arcane damage here.
Taking the 4.
The 4 from the Rip Through Reality.
Down to 14.
Oh, he's counting up stuff. Is this a... Counting up... There might be even more behind this.
Well, did he banish an Eclipse earlier?
Did. So, like, is this going to be an Eclipse turn?
Well, he just played a Howl from Beyond. So whatever he's going to play next is going to get +3. And there's the Soul Shackle use.
Going to put a Howl from Beyond for resources. Play...
Oh my goodness.
Riftbind, and this is what the counting that I was worried about. He's counting up for Riftbind here. Is this going to be a lethal turn?
Oh, he can't deal 14, but he's going to deal a lot.
Yeah, because there's no more Go again, right?
Well, he did just make a Soul Shackle, so maybe it is a lethal turn.
Because, right, so here comes another block.
Oh, he had a Steel Blade Shunt in his arsenal. What a good card to have in arsenal.
Here we go.
Does create the Urser because I guess he's playing the Eclipse out. And
it was going to actually be lethal if the last card wasn't, enough to stop off just as much, because Williams is down to 2. What a look at this board.
It is just a catastrophe.
Just casual Chane stuff.
And past the turn, after ticking up the Tunic, drawing 4, you have an Urser. The Urser can attack for 6 in addition to anything else that you banish.
It is such an ideal turn to have the Urser too, because there's no threat of it being attacked. There's nothing that could actually happen.
That's right.
The Dorinthea side here, and you're just sitting here kind of waiting to die. This is the worst time.
It's the worst case scenario. He did end up hitting a lot of non-playable cards, but he hit enough that at this point it's probably lights out. Things like Shadow Averser, Seeds. Looks like a Seeping Shadow in there. Is that a Seeping Shadow down? I can't quite tell, but if it is, that's just another way to give Go again. And this plus a full grip, plus all of that stuff.
Hardened Arsenal as well. It's going to be... You'd be surprised if the game didn't end on this turn. There wasn't a way to cobble it all together, especially when you're leading off with what looks like 2 Seeds. So that's going to be multiple Arcanes that are coming this turn.
Exactly.
So that's representing your entire life total here. So some card needs to be pitched from your hand for resources so you can stop both of those. And at that point, do you have enough to block? And I don't know if Williams going to be able to find that.
And that should be the game. Coming in across for 6, taking that damage, dropping to 0. A very tough moment when you're playing such a fun deck, playing such a cool deck in Axe Dorinthea, having that huge moment where things just shift so quickly off of just insane banishes. It's tough to stomach, but it's still really congratulations to both of those players. Both of those players were 3-0, and now Chane moves to 4-0, and Dorinthea still has a shot at 3-1 to continue.
Absolutely.
I mean, and that is a deck. I do think that's a deck that, because not many people have played against it, it is a deck that has the capacity to make it to day 2 and do some damage. If players aren't ready for it or expect that it to be something different than it actually is, a very cool deck going forward.
Absolutely. I was really impressed with what it did early in the game. It's just like you said, that one big turnaround turn from the Chane player kind of put it on the back foot and never really covered from there. So we're going to actually take a really quick break for you guys, and we're going to be right back with some more Flesh and Blood. Hey everybody, and welcome back. We've got some more round 4 action here for you at the Calling in Las Vegas. So let's go right back into a match in progress.
I believe this match is Aggro Katsu versus Chane. A really interesting match that we haven't actually seen yet. We haven't seen this matchup on stream, but it does have the capacity to be very big. And oh my goodness, we see the playing of a Dimensional Crossroads, which can do some crazy things for Chane. It's a card you side in if you think that you're playing the Control Katsu matchup. So if you think that you are up against Control Katsu, you'll oftentimes side in Dimensional Crossroads so that you can force cards out of their hand, so that you can basically threaten more arcane damage than you normally would. And yet this is an Aggro Katsu list, and look at the life totals.
Yeah,
27 to 7.
I was gonna say this is definitely one where you could say this can't be the Control matchup, because you see the Chane player already on 7. I was like, I don't think they've attacked with that many Kodachis in this game.
That is a big deficit. And also notice this player is playing the Aether Iron Weave as well, so no husk availability, which is good in the sense that they don't have to worry about the husks like constantly killing them, but they are definitely in a spot.
Speaking of being in a spot, this turn looks like it might be pretty powerful. I see 2 Rift Binds down here in the Banish Zone. We see 3 Seeds that are getting played here. So
that's correct.
Maybe this is one of these turns that we're talking about, that this is the big turnaround turn where Chane starts to really put his foot down, puts the pedal to the metal. That
is correct. Yeah, this could definitely be one of those scenarios. You do have to do a lot of calculations in this setup, because you have to know when the Dimensional Crossroads is dealing damage and when it's not. It is a very tricky card at times. And Dimensional Crossroads, when it triggers versus when it doesn't trigger, is definitely very high level.
Absolutely. And this is going to be a pretty big, impactful turn How much damage are we actually swinging in for here? This refines a ton. I don't know if any of the seeds have actually triggered just yet.
It should be. It looks like 2 of the 3 seeds are actually activating. So you have 2 points of Arcane being triggered here, but all 3 of those seeds are contributing to a +1 on the Rift Bind. So the Rift Bind here is coming across for 6, but that's before, or I should say after, those Arcane points.
Another non-husk Chane, by the way.
That's right. Yeah, I was talking about that earlier, and looks like he's actually going to use that to pay for the next effect. Most likely coming across with something nice and beefy. Oh, no, I'm going to play the second Dimensional Crossroads. So there's life here yet, and things can get very crazy with double Dimensional Crossroads. This is the moment that you actually trigger the second Dimensional Crossroads, and so you'd have the ability here to deal 2 points of Arcane just from playing that one single card, and that's before you actually deal with the Rift Bind itself.
Absolutely. So huge turn here from the Chane player. We'll see what the final life total looks like. The Katsu player is down to all the way to 11.
I think he just decided, I'm going to take that because I need to threaten you continually.
And that kind of scares you, right? If you're the Chane player and you're making that big an attack, and the Katsu combo player is like, yeah, take it.
A Ravenous Rabble red, revealing a red card, so 4 and go again. I love Ravenous Rabble. This card is so much fun to play, particularly in Azalea, but that's just the way I build Azalea. And this just coming across for free 4 damage with go again, guaranteed. And the Chane player goes, I don't have a blocks on any of my armor. I have to either take 1 damage and lose a card from hand, or take 4 damage, or lose 2 cards from hand. This is a very dangerous spot for Chane because this is not the only thing that's going on.
Yeah, that's always the scary thing when you're playing against Katsu, right? Is like they do something, they'll play 1 card or attack you Kodachi, you know this, like, this is only the beginning. This is a deck that, while not doing the same thing as Chane, where it's, you know, moving cards from deck to banish zone and whatever, but it is also a deck that can put more than 4 cards onto the Chane at once attacking.
And look, he chooses to block for 2 with a Plunder Run, saying, hey, I'm not going to get any value off this Plunder Run because I'd have to Arsenal it and then play it, and that's just 2 turns away. I can't do that. Pitching here and playing a Leg Tap. Leg Tap has natural go again as well and threatens the Katsu effect to go and fetch the next portion of the combo line, and things can get bad.
Yeah, he's also got a Mask active here, too, so if the 3rd attack on the Chane is going to hit here, I was going to say, if it gets through damage after this, then we're going to get another card as well.
That's correct. This is one of those must-block scenarios, namely because of that trigger and because of the on-hit effect of Katsu. This is one of those, it's kind of like when you're playing against Katsu and you have the multiple Kodachis, you always block the second one to break up the Chane, right? This is that same moment.
That was a big learning experience for me. The first time I played against it, and he's attacking Kodachi, I'm like, yeah, fine, take it. Then the second one, I'm like, yeah, fine, take it. Everybody's like, no. You always block the second one.
Block the second one. Yeah, block the second one. Sometimes, in very fringe cases, ooh, and he just wins it with the red Razor Reflex off the top. Look at this. There was a play to block here. The double block, but no play after that. Oh, my goodness. Wow. I can't believe we got to see a win off of a red Razor Reflex. That is literally the day 1 way to win as Katsu. The game releases, and everyone realizes that if you don't block correctly against things like Kodachi when you're low life, you just die to red Razor Reflex. And that's what, there it was.
Absolutely. It's actually nice to see a game end on an attack reflex like that, Razor Reflex with an attack reaction like that, because it's not something you see so much in the game right now. When you look at a lot of the top decks, they're not doing anything like that. They don't have a ton of defense reactions or attack reactions, so it's really cool to see that. I really wish we got to see more of the combo Katsu deck going, because I want to see how he got the Chane player that low, that fast, because it probably involves one of those turns where they're doing all the cards sequentially correctly, goes, finds another card, does all the crazy stuff.
I hope we get to see some aggro Katsu in the next couple of rounds.
Hopefully we get to see it next round, because that's going to be it for this round, but make sure y'all don't go anywhere, because we'll be right back with more Flesh and Blood.